Did you know that after decades in the spotlight, over 90% of rock legends from the golden era look nothing like they did at their peak? From the Prince of Darkness to the wild heart of Guns N' Roses. Here are 20 rock and roll legends you'd never recognize today. 1. Ozzy Osbourne. Once the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne was a rock star who seemed larger than life. With his band, Black Sabbath, he helped create a new kind of music, loud, heavy, and dark. People feared and admired him. He was wild, unpredictable, and did things no one expected. One time, he even bit the head off a bat on stage. He lived without rules, pushing every limit. He partied hard, made headlines with his crazy behavior, and seemed unstoppable. No matter how much trouble he got into, he always survived. His name became a symbol of heavy metal music. But time changes everything. The man who once ruled the stage with endless energy is now slower, his body worn down. Years of hard living, accidents, and illness have taken their toll. He walks with a cane, his hands shake, and his voice is not as strong as before. The wild energy that made him famous has faded, replaced by doctor visits and careful movements. The man who once seemed unbreakable is now feeling the weight of time. Still, Ozzy refuses to disappear. He may not run across the stage like before, but his music still reaches the world. He continues to record songs and work with other artists. His family helps keep his legacy alive, making sure people remember what he has done. Younger generations still listen to his music, learning about the legend of Ozzy Osbourne. Though he has changed, his impact remains. He may not be the same wild rock star, but legends never truly fade. 2. Axl Rose. Pure energy defined Axl Rose. He didn't just sing. He exploded on stage. With wild red hair and a voice that could shake a stadium, he led Guns N' Roses to the top in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Axl was the wild heart of it all, known for his powerful performances and unpredictable behavior. He often showed up late, fought with bandmates, and walked a fine line between genius and disaster. But no one could look away. He was a star, unlike any other. Time changes everyone, even rock legends. The skinny, untamed frontman of the past is gone. His body has filled out, his sharp features have softened, and his famous hair is now neatly kept. His voice, once able to hit impossible notes, sometimes struggles to find its old power. Some nights he brings back that fire, but other times age shows its weight. He still moves across the stage, but with more care. Fans still cheer, still sing along, but they also see the difference. But Axl hasn't given up. When he reunited with Slash and Duff McKagan, it brought back some of the magic. The Not in This Lifetime tour was a huge success, proving that Axl still had something special. He may not be the wild rock god he once was, but he still has a presence that commands attention. Guns N' Roses is now a band from the past fighting to stay relevant, but their music still matters. Axl is not the same as before, but he is still Axl Rose, and that still means something. 3. Steven Tyler. Loud, wild, and full of energy, Steven Tyler wasn't just a singer. His voice was rough but powerful, stretching to crazy high notes. As the lead singer of Aerosmith, he helped make the band famous. His look was unforgettable: long hair, bright scarves, tight clothes, and lips that seemed bigger than normal. He didn't just stand on stage. He moved, danced, and jumped. Every show was full of color and excitement. He lived the rock star life, doing things most people wouldn't dare, but he always seemed to come out just fine. When he sang, people listened. When he walked into a room, everyone noticed. But time changes everyone. His face has more lines now, and his thick hair is thinner, though he still tries to keep his wild style. He has used everything he can: treatments, surgeries, and energy to fight aging. He still has confidence, still takes the stage, but he isn't as fast as before. His voice has lost some of its sharpness, but his attitude is the same. He still believes he owns the stage. The years have left their mark, but they haven't taken away who he is. Even now, he refuses to disappear. After all these years, he still sings, still performs, still makes people cheer. His voice isn't as strong, but the passion is still there. His fans still love him. Music has changed, new stars have come, but Steven Tyler hasn't stepped aside. He is holding on, proving that he is still a rock legend. His body might slow down, but his spirit never will. 4. Vince Neil. Once the wild heart of Motley Crue, Vince Neil led the band through the 1980s with his powerful voice and rock star attitude. He had long blonde hair, a cool smirk, and a leather outfit that made him look like a true rock legend. His voice was sharp and strong, making songs like Kickstart My Heart, Dr. Feelgood, and Girls, 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 unforgettable. He lived fast, played hard, and became a symbol of glam metal. But time changes everything. The strong, fit man who once ruled the stage now moves slower. His body is heavier, his steps are unsteady, and his face shows the years of wild living. His hair, once full and flowing, is now thin and often dyed to keep its old look. The energy that once made crowds go wild is fading, replaced by a struggle to keep up. The biggest change is his voice. What was once a powerful and clear sound is now weak and shaky. He used to hit every note perfectly, but now backup singers help cover the gaps. Fans who loved his voice now feel sad when they hear the difference. Still, Vince refuses to quit. He keeps touring with Motley Crue, holding on to the past. Some admire his determination, while others feel sorry for him. But no matter what, his name will always be part of rock history. The real question is, how long can he keep going before time finally wins? 5. David Lee Roth. Once the face of rock and roll, David Lee Roth was loud, wild, and full of energy. As Van Halen's lead singer, he made songs like Jump Panama and Ain't Talkin' About Love Legendary. He didn't just sing, he took over the stage. He jumped, spun, and kicked like he owned the world, flashing a grin that said he was having the time of his life. But that man isn't on stage anymore. His long golden hair is gone, replaced by a shaved head. His face, once young and full of mischief, now shows deep lines from years of living fast. The flashy clothes, the tight spandex, and wild accessories are all gone. Now he wears suits and seems to want to leave that old image behind. His voice has changed too. It used to be sharp, full of power and fun. Now it's softer, and hitting those high notes is harder. He doesn't leap around the stage like before. He's tried different styles of music, jazz, lounge, and more, looking for a new way to fit in. Some say he's just growing and adapting, finding new ways to be an artist. Others miss the fire he once had. But one thing is certain, David Lee Roth left his mark on rock and roll. His time in the spotlight may have changed, but his influence will never fade. 6. Gene Simmons. More than a rock star, Gene Simmons was a legend. With his demon makeup, high boots, and studded leather, he became the face of Kiss. He breathed fire, spit blood, and stuck out his famous long tongue, turning the band into more than just musicians. They became a show, a brand, a money-making machine. But time changes everything. Without the makeup, Simmons is almost unrecognizable. His thick black hair is now thinner, neatly styled to fight aging. His face, once fierce, now has deep wrinkles. The powerful body has softened. The spikes and leather are gone, replaced by dark suits and sunglasses. The rock god now looks more like a businessman. Still, Simmons keeps pushing forward. Kiss might be ending, but his empire isn't. He continues to expand his brand, proving that his influence is still strong. But when you see him now, away from the costumes and fire, you have to wonder, was the demon ever real or just a brilliant illusion? 7. Paul Stanley. Once larger than life, Paul Stanley was the star child of Kiss, a mystery covered in silver and black. His voice soared, and his star-shaped makeup became a symbol of rock and roll. He ruled the stage, jumping, spinning, and singing hits like Love Gun and Detroit Rock City. In the 70s and 80s, he seemed unstoppable. But time moves on. Now, without the makeup, Stanley looks like a different person. His once smooth face now has deep lines. His dark hair, though styled, isn't as full. His sharp jawline has softened. People whisper about plastic surgery, but no one can stop aging. He doesn't move like he used to, but he still stands strong. The fire isn't gone. He still performs, his voice rougher but still powerful. He's found new passions in Motown and R&B, proving that even though he's changed, his love for music hasn't faded. 8. Phil Collins. A legend in music, Phil Collins played the drums like no one else, creating beats that people still love today. But he wasn't just a drummer, he was also a singer. He did both at the same time, which is rare. His songs like In the Air Tonight, Against All Odds, and Another Day in Paradise made people feel deep emotions. Whether he was in the band Genesis or on his own, his music made history. But time has changed him. Years of drumming and performing hurt his body. His spine is damaged and his nerves don't work like they used to. He needs a cane and sometimes a wheelchair. The strong, energetic man who once filled stadiums is now weak. It's hard to see him struggle to stand when he was once so full of life. Even with all this, he doesn't give up. His voice is not as powerful as before, but it still has that special feeling. He sings sitting down now because his body won't let him do more. It's sad to see, but it's also inspiring. He gave his life to music, and even though his body has changed, his passion has not. Phil Collins may not be the same, but his music will never fade away. 9. Eddie Van Halen. A guitar wizard, Eddie Van Halen didn't just play, he changed the game. His fingers moved so fast, it felt like magic. He made sounds no one had ever heard before. When he played, it wasn't just music. It was something bigger, something electric. His guitar had stripes. His eyes burned with energy. His songs, Eruption, Panama, Jump, weren't just hits. They were a revolution. He made the guitar cool in a way no one else had. People tried to copy him, but no one could do it like Eddie. He was in a league of his own. But even legends can't outrun time. Eddie's biggest fight wasn't on stage. It was against cancer. The disease took so much from him. His strong, unstoppable body became weak. His thick, dark hair turned silver. The wild, smiling rock star became quiet and tired. Fans barely saw him anymore. When they did, they were shocked at how much he had changed. Even as his body failed, Eddie never let go of his guitar. He still played in private, always chasing new sounds. But in the end, cancer won. In 2020, the world lost Eddie Van Halen. 10. Jimmy Page. A guitar legend, Jimmy Page played in a famous rock band called Led Zeppelin. People saw him as more than just a musician. He was almost like a magician with his guitar. He wore dragon-covered suits and played a special double-necked guitar. His music felt powerful, almost magical, like it could take you to another world. Songs like Stairway to Heaven and Dazed and Confused weren't just songs. They were experiences. When he performed, it was as if the music controlled him. His fingers moved fast, creating sounds that amazed everyone. Fans watched in silence, completely drawn in by his talent. On stage, he seemed lost in his music, making every show feel special and different from the last. Page's music wasn't just about playing the right notes. It was about feeling. He could take a simple melody and turn it into something unforgettable. His ability to improvise made his performances exciting. No two shows were the same. He played from the heart, and the audience could feel it. It was like he and his guitar were speaking their own language. But time changes everything. The wild rock star of the past has grown older. His long black hair has turned silver. He no longer runs across big stages playing solos for thousands of screaming fans. His hands, once quick and strong, have slowed down. The face that once looked untouchable now shows signs of age. Even though he doesn't perform as much anymore, his love for music hasn't disappeared. He still works on Led Zeppelin's old songs, making them sound even better with remasters. He finds old recordings and shares them with fans. His guitar playing may have changed, but his influence on rock music never will. Jimmy Page may look different now, but his music still has the same magic. His songs continue to inspire new musicians and fans. He was, and always will be, one of rock's greatest legends. 11. Little Richard. Not just a musician, Little Richard was a storm. In the 1950s, he exploded onto the music scene with flashy suits, big hair, and unstoppable energy. His piano wasn't just an instrument, it was part of him. He played it like a madman, pounding the keys with fire. His voice was wild, loud, and full of power. Songs like Tutti Frutti and Good Golly, Miss Molly weren't just songs. They were shouts of freedom, fun, and rebellion. No one had ever seen or heard anything like him before. Once you saw Little Richard, you never forgot him. His music changed everything. Every scream, every note, and every performance broke the rules. He dared the world to keep up with him. He didn't just make music, he changed it. His fearless style influenced countless musicians. Without him, rock and roll wouldn't be what it is today. He showed artists that being loud, different, and proud was something to celebrate. He wasn't just an entertainer, he was a movement. But even the biggest stars don't shine forever. Over time, the wild man of rock and roll slowed down. The glittering suits disappeared, replaced by simple clothes. His famous hair turned gray, then hid under hats or wigs. The fire in his eyes faded into wisdom. He couldn't jump and dance like before. His strong, booming voice softened. The man who once owned the stage now stepped away from it. Illness took away the last of his strength. He stopped performing. No more wild shows, no more shouts into the microphone. But even though he was gone from the spotlight, his music never left. His influence was everywhere, woven into the heart of rock and roll. His songs still played, his spirit still burned in every artist who dared to be bold and different. Little Richard may have left the stage, but his music will live forever. 12. Jerry Lee Lewis. They called him the Killer for a reason. Jerry Lee Lewis didn't just play the piano, he attacked it. He stomped on it, banged the keys, and made it sound wild. His music was loud, fast, and full of fire. Songs like Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On weren't just songs, they were explosions of energy. He didn't care about rules. He was dangerous, wild, and unpredictable. His concerts were more than just music. He made every show a wild event. He kicked over pianos, stood on them, and played with a fearless attitude. No one could take their eyes off him. He wasn't just another singer, he was a storm of sound and movement. People left his shows amazed, trying to understand what they had just seen. But time changes everything. His golden curls turned white. His strong hands that once hit the keys so hard became weak. The energy that once made him jump on pianos faded. The man who once ran across the stage now needed a cane to walk. Still, Jerry Lee Lewis never lost his fire. Even when his body got older, his mind stayed sharp. He still had that same attitude, that same spark. He couldn't play like before, but his name was already written in rock and roll history. He was a legend, and legends never fade. 13. Dion DiMucci. The king of cool, Dion DiMucci ruled the golden days of rock and roll. He wasn't just another singer, he was the voice of a generation. With his leather jacket, smooth confidence, and a voice full of attitude, he became a star. Songs like Run Around Sue and The Wanderer made him famous. He sang about love, heartbreak, and the life of a rebel. Fans loved him. He stood next to legends like Elvis Presley and Buddy Holly, and he fit right in. But time doesn't stand still. The young man who once walked on stage with swagger is now a veteran of music. His black hair turned silver, and his face shows the years of experience. The leather jacket is gone, replaced with stylish hats and glasses. He doesn't look like a teen idol anymore, but he has something just as powerful: wisdom and experience. Dion's journey through music is incredible. He didn't just stay in one place. He explored blues, folk, and gospel, always keeping his sound fresh. His voice may have changed, but it still has that deep emotion that made people love him in the first place. His music still matters. He inspired artists across different genres. He may not look like the young heartthrob from the old days, but his impact on music is stronger than ever. Legends like him don't disappear, they just keep evolving. 14. John Lydon. Once a wild force, John Lydon didn't just sing punk, he lived it. With messy hair and a tough attitude, he led the Pistols as Johnny Rotten, challenging the world with songs like Anarchy in the UK and God Save the Queen. He wore ripped clothes, sneered at authority, and became the face of a movement that refused to be ignored. His performances were loud, raw, and full of energy. Every time he took the stage, he made a statement. He didn't just play music. He fought against the system with every word and gesture. But time changes everything. Today, John Lydon is no longer the skinny, rebellious young man who once shocked the world. His face has filled out, his hair is combed, and he dresses in simple button-up shirts instead of torn clothes. He looks more like a regular guy at a local bar than a punk legend. His appearance has changed, showing that even the loudest voices cannot stop time. His body may have slowed down, but his mind is still sharp. Even though he looks different, his rebellious spirit is still there. Whether through his band Public Image Lillithrid or his outspoken opinions, he refuses to be ignored. He still questions authority and challenges ideas, but now he does it with words instead of shock tactics. He may not have the same look, but the fire inside him has not gone out. John Lydon is still a fighter, just in a different way. 15. Peter Criss. In the world of rock and roll, few images are as famous as the painted faces of Kiss. Behind one of those masks was Peter Criss, known as the Catman. He played the drums with power and passion, bringing a unique sound to the band. His raspy voice and jazz-style drumming gave Kiss a special edge. While the band was known for its fire and wild stage shows, Peter showed a softer side with Beth, a song that proved Kiss wasn't just about loud guitars. Fans rarely saw his real face since the black and white paint became a part of his identity. He was a key part of the band's success, making Kiss stand out from other rock bands. But eventually, the mask came off. And underneath, things had changed. His dark hair turned gray, his skin showed the marks of time, and his movement slowed. The man who once played explosive drum solos no longer had the same energy. Seeing him without his Catman look felt strange, like he was a completely different person. It wasn't just his face that changed. His life had taken a different path. He had gone from a rock star to someone who had lived through the ups and downs of fame. Still, his legacy lives on. Even though he no longer tours with Kiss, his impact on rock music remains. His drumming style is studied by musicians who admire his unique approach. In 2014, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, proving that his influence will never be forgotten. His story is not just about fame, but about survival. With or without the makeup, Peter Criss will always be the Catman, a legend in the world of rock. 16. Ginger Baker. More than just a drummer, Ginger Baker was a powerhouse. He changed how rock drumming was done, mixing jazz skill with pure, raw energy. As a founding member of Cream, he made history. His drumming on Sunshine of Your Love, White Room, and Toad wasn't just keeping time. It was shaking rock music to its core. With his wild red hair, sharp eyes, and skinny frame, he looked like a man on a mission. His energy and fiery spirit made him unforgettable, but rock wasn't his only love. He formed Blind Faith with Eric Clapton and Steve Winwood, and later explored African rhythms with the legendary Fela Kuti. He pushed drumming beyond limits and inspired countless musicians, but time caught up with him. By the time he passed in 2019, Ginger Baker was not the man he used to be. The drummer who once ruled the stage now struggled just to move. His red hair had faded, and his energy was gone. Years of hard living took their toll. He suffered from painful arthritis and lung disease. The hands that once played thunderous beats now trembled. He needed a cane, then a wheelchair. His body gave up, but his spirit stayed strong. Even in old age, he was sharp and outspoken, always staying true to his rebellious rock and roll heart. Though he changed over the years, his impact on music remains forever. 17. Ted Nugent. One of the most energetic guitarists in rock, Ted Nugent started with the Amboy Dukes in the late 1960s before going solo and making his mark. His songs, Stranglehold, Cat Scratch Fever, and Wango Tango, were loud and wild. His concerts were full of energy. He played with his shirt off, sweat dripping, wielding his Gibson Birdland guitar like a weapon. He was a long-haired, leather-wearing rock star, always on the move. His guitar solos were fast and aggressive, a mix of blues and hard rock. His performances were unforgettable, filled with power and excitement. But today, Ted Nugent looks very different. His long hair has turned silver and is usually hidden under a cowboy hat. The lean rock star has filled out, his face lined with age. His leather and fringe outfits are gone, replaced by camouflage and western shirts. His voice, once a fierce roar, has grown rougher. He still plays guitar, but he's not the same wild performer he once was. More than just his look has changed. Once known only for his music, Nugent is now famous for his strong political opinions. Some fans love him for it, while others have turned away. He still performs, still shreds on guitar, but his stage presence has mellowed. The fire is still there, but it burns in a different way. The wild rock star has transformed, but his passion remains. 18. Brian Wilson. Not just a musician, Brian Wilson was the mastermind behind the Beach Boys. He created songs that made people feel like they were at the beach, enjoying the sun and waves. Good Vibrations, God Only Knows, and Wouldn't It Be Nice weren't just songs. They were unforgettable melodies. His album Pet Sounds changed music, proving that pop could be as deep and emotional as any classical piece. But behind his success, Wilson struggled. He battled anxiety and the pressures of fame. While his bandmates enjoyed the spotlight, he often stayed behind, lost in his own thoughts and music. For him, music was both a gift and a burden. As the years passed, Brian Wilson changed. He wasn't the same young, energetic man from the 1960s. His face became lined with age, his dark hair turned white, and his once strong posture weakened. The spark in his eyes dimmed, replaced with something more somber. The carefree spirit he once had seemed distant, as if he was always lost in memories of the past. Even though he aged, his music never lost its magic. His performances became quieter, but his songs still held the same power. His voice, though softer, still carried the beauty that had inspired generations. His hands, though slower, still played melodies that touched hearts. Time changed Brian Wilson, but his music remained timeless. 19. Mark Farner. Once a rock legend, Mark Farner was the heart of Grand Funk Railroad, singing and playing guitar with wild energy. His long hair flew as he jumped around on stage. He wore a headband, sweat dripping from his face, and played his guitar like it was a part of him. His music was loud, exciting, and full of power. Songs like "We're an American Band" and "I'm Your Captain." Closer to Home made him famous. He wasn't just a musician. He was a force, leading a movement of rock fans who loved his raw, real sound. Back in the day, Mark Farner's concerts were electric. His voice was strong, and his guitar playing made crowds go wild. He had a fire inside him, and people felt it in every song. He made music that felt alive, that made people want to sing, dance, and shout. Fans saw him as more than a performer. He was their leader, their rock hero. But time changes everything. Now, Mark Farner looks different. His long hair is gone, replaced by short silver hair. His face has wrinkles, showing the years he has lived. He doesn't run and jump on stage like he used to. He doesn't sweat through high-energy performances anymore. The wild moves have faded, replaced by calm and control. The headband is gone, but in its place is something else: wisdom and experience. He is not the young rock star he once was, but he is still a musician, still a storyteller. If you saw him today, you might not know he was once a rock legend. But when he sings, the passion's still there. His voice is older, but it still has power. His fingers don't move as fast, but they still play his guitar with skill. He has changed, but his love for music hasn't. He doesn't fight against time. He embraces it. His concerts are different now. Instead of wild energy, he focuses on telling a story through his songs. He has grown, but the spirit of rock still lives in him. 20. Bob Catley. Not just a singer, Bob Catley was a storyteller. As the lead singer of Magnum, his voice was powerful. He could roar like thunder or whisper like the wind. His performances were dramatic, his blonde curls bouncing as he sang about adventure and heartbreak. Every word felt alive, and his energy pulled people into his music. Fans didn't just hear his songs, they felt them. Magnum made music that told stories. Albums like On a Storyteller's Night, Vigilante, and Wings of Heaven were more than just songs. They were journeys. At the heart of it all was Catley, a singer who could bring fantasy to life with his voice. His singing made Magnum special. Each album and concert showed his talent for making people feel strong emotions. He could take fans through stories of love, loss, and dreams like few others could. But time changes everything. The golden curls have turned white. His sharp face has softened, wrinkles marking years of performing. The slim, energetic singer has become slower, his movements heavier. The bright, colorful outfits of the past are now simpler. He has spent decades on stage, and his body shows it. He may not move as fast, but his presence is still powerful. When he steps onto a stage, people still pay attention. Yet one thing has not changed: his voice. Unlike many other singers, time has not stolen its strength. It remains as rich and emotional as ever. He doesn't need to jump around the stage anymore. His voice alone is enough. Fans might not always recognize the face, but the sound is unmistakable. His singing carries years of experience, making his songs even deeper.